There is a moment, and every parent has had it, where you catch your child staring at you, not asking for anything, not saying a word, just watching. And in that silence, something uncomfortable stirs inside you, because deep down, you know, they are reading you. They are always reading you. Children are not blank slates waiting to be filled. They are extraordinarily precise observers of human behavior, calibrated by millions of years of evolution to detect emotional signals in the adults around them. Their survival depends on it. Long before they can speak, they are already running complex calculations. Is this person safe? Is this environment stable? Am I loved? And the answers they construct do not come from what you tell them. They come from what you do when you think no one is paying attention. That is the part that most parenting advice skips over. The gap between who we think we are as parents and who our children actually experience us to be. And that gap is wider than most of us want to admit. Today, we are going inside that gap. We are going to talk about the behaviors, some obvious, some painfully subtle, that children detect immediately, even when you believe you are hiding them perfectly. And more importantly, we are going to explore what those behaviors teach them about the world, about relationships, and about themselves. Because the lessons children are learning right now are not the ones you are sitting down to teach. They are the ones playing out in the background, in the kitchen at 7 in the morning, in the car on the way to school, in the tone of your voice when your phone buzzes at dinner. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear might change the way you walk into the same room as your child tomorrow morning. Let us start with something almost no one wants to talk about: the emotional dishonesty we perform for our children every single day. You come home after a brutal day. Your body is exhausted, your mind is scattered, your patience is paper thin. But you walk through the door and you smile. Everything is fine. You hold the tension in your jaw and your shoulders, and the way your eyes go flat, and you say, "I'm okay." And your child, this small, ancient, deeply wired creature, looks at you and believes exactly none of it. Research in developmental psychology confirms what most parents intuitively sense but rarely acknowledge. Children as young as 2 years old can detect discrepancies between a parent's verbal expression and their nonverbal cues. They feel the mismatch. They feel it in their bodies before they have words for it. And what they learn from that mismatch is not that you are protecting them. What they learn is that emotions are dangerous things to be hidden, that the right response to pain is performance, that love looks like pretending everything is okay when it is not. This is one of the first, most foundational toxic patterns children detect in parents. Not anger, not yelling, not the dramatic moments. It is the quiet, consistent emotional dishonesty. The modeling that says, when things are hard, you mask it. You push through. You do not burden others with your real feelings. And years later, that child becomes a teenager who says, "I'm fine," when they are falling apart inside. And you wonder where they learned that. They learned it from you, not because you were a bad parent, but because no one ever showed you another way either. The second behavior children notice, and this one runs deep, is contempt between the adults in their world. Notice I did not say conflict. Conflict is normal. Two people who share a life will disagree. Children can handle seeing conflict when it is resolved with respect. What they cannot metabolize is contempt, the eye roll, the dismissive sigh, the way one parent talks about the other when they are not in the room, the cold silence that fills a house like fog, the sarcasm that cuts without a raised voice. Dr. John Gottman, who has spent decades studying relationships, identified contempt as the single most corrosive element in human partnerships. And children do not need to understand what contempt is to feel its weight. They feel it in the way a room's energy shifts when both parents are present. They feel it in the split-second micro-expressions that flash across a face before the mask goes back on. They feel it in the thickness of a silence that is not peaceful, but loaded. And here is the truly devastating part. Children do not just observe this, they internalize it as a model for what love is, for what relationships are supposed to feel like, for what they deserve. A child who grows up in a house where one parent treats the other with contempt does not think, my parents have a bad relationship. They think, this is what closeness looks like. They carry that blueprint into every friendship, every romantic relationship, every partnership for the rest of their lives. They will recognize contempt as familiar, and familiar to the nervous system feels like home. Now let us go somewhere even more uncomfortable. Let us talk about the way parents use children as emotional support systems. Not dramatically, not deliberately, but in the hundreds of small ways it happens in ordinary families every day. You have a hard conversation with your partner. You go to your child and say, "You're the only one who understands me." You tell them things about the other parent that they are too young to hold. You lean on them when you are sad in a way that makes them feel responsible for your emotional state. You express your fears to them because they are available and they listen and they make you feel less alone. This is called parentification, and it is one of the most common toxic patterns in loving, well-intentioned families. Children who are parentified do not grow up feeling trusted or mature. They grow up feeling anxious. They grow up with a hyperactive radar for other people's emotional states because their nervous system learned early that someone else's feelings are their responsibility. They become adults who cannot sit still in the presence of another person's discomfort, who apologize for things that are not their fault, who do not know how to receive care without immediately trying to deflect it. Children notice when they have been handed something that is too heavy for them. They do not say it. They cannot say it, but they feel the weight pressing down on their small shoulders, and they restructure themselves around it. There is another behavior, one that is almost universally present in parents who love their children fiercely, that does quiet, consistent damage. It is the unconscious comparison, not the cruel kind that is said out loud with the intention to wound, the gentle kind, the passing kind. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" said in a moment of frustration. "Look how well your cousin is doing in school." The comment about another child's achievement offered as motivation, received as evidence of inadequacy. Children are building their sense of self during the years they spend with you. They are constructing an internal answer to the question, "Who am I?" And every comparison you make, even the ones you mean as encouragement, contributes to an answer they are assembling. When the comparisons point outward to other people as the standard they should be reaching, the answer they begin to build is, "Who I am is not enough. Who I am needs to be measured against others to have value. Who I am is conditional." That is not what you meant to teach them, but it is what they learned, because children do not hear the motivation behind the words. They hear the verdict. Let us talk about something that is happening right now, in real time, in almost every family on earth, and is so normalized that pointing it out sounds almost absurd. The phone. The way we look at it when our children are talking to us. The way we pick it up in the middle of a sentence they are midway through. The way our eyes drift to the screen during dinner, during bedtime, during the moments our children have chosen to approach us with something important to them. I am not here to shame you about your phone. I am here to tell you what your children are experiencing in those moments, because they are not experiencing what you think they are experiencing. They are not thinking, "My parent is busy." They are not thinking, "Adults have responsibilities." Children are deeply egocentric in their emotional interpretation of the world, and they are thinking, "I am less interesting than that screen. I am not worth putting it down for." And each time that thought occurs, and goes unchallenged, not by a conversation about it, but by behavior that contradicts it, it becomes a little more embedded in the story they are telling about themselves. Children notice the moment your eyes drop to your phone mid-conversation the same way you would notice if someone did it to you in a meeting you cared about. The sting is identical. They just do not have the language to name it, so they carry it as a feeling instead. And then there is this, the way adults handle their own mistakes in front of their children. This one reveals more about your emotional blueprint than almost anything else you do. When you make a mistake, when you snap, when you say the wrong thing, when you lose your temper and then feel the shame of it afterward, what do? Do you go to your child and say clearly and without deflection, "I was wrong, I am sorry. What I did was not okay, and it was not your fault"? Or do you change the subject, lighten the mood, pretend it did not happen, convince yourself that they will have forgotten by morning? Because children do not forget. They fold experiences into their understanding of reality. And a parent who makes mistakes but never repairs them teaches a child something specific and lasting, that when you hurt someone, you move on. That accountability is optional. That the person who causes pain does not owe an explanation to the person who feels it. That an apology is something you get when you are lucky, not something you can expect as a matter of course. Conversely, a parent who repairs, who comes back, who acknowledges the rupture, who takes responsibility without making the child responsible for managing the parent's guilt, teaches something entirely different. They teach that relationships can survive mistakes. That honesty is safer than silence. That imperfection does not disqualify you from love. That is one of the most powerful things you can put inside another human being. There is one more behavior I want to leave you with, because I believe it is the one that shapes children most profoundly and is the least talked about. It is not dramatic. It does not happen in explosions. It happens in the quiet, accumulated weight of 1,000 small moments. It is the way you talk about yourself, the things you say in passing. "I'm so stupid, I forgot again. I look terrible. I'm such a mess. I never get anything right." These words land on your children with the force of instruction, because to a child, you are the person they are becoming. You are the template. And when you speak about yourself with contempt, you are showing them the acceptable way to treat a person who looks and feels and struggles like you, which one day will be them. Children absorb your relationship with yourself as naturally as they absorb language. They do not decide to copy it. They simply do the way water takes the shape of the container it is poured into. If you treat yourself harshly, they learn to treat themselves harshly. If you forgive yourself publicly with imperfect, stumbling grace, they learn that they too are forgivable. If you speak about your body with disgust, they learn to look at their own body as something to be criticized. If you demonstrate, even poorly and inconsistently, that you are still worth caring for when you fail, that is the permission you hand your child to extend the same grace to themselves for the rest of their life. Here is what all of this is not. It is not a verdict on you as a parent. None of it is. Because the behaviors we talked about today are almost universally inherited, passed down in patterns of behavior from one generation to the next, usually by people who loved their children deeply and did not know another way. You are not the first link in this chain. You are simply the one who is awake enough to look at it. And the most important thing I want to leave you with is this. Children are not just watching for the toxicity. They are watching just as carefully for the repair. They are watching to see if you are willing to look honestly at yourself. They are watching to see if love in your house is something static and performed, or something real and alive and willing to be uncomfortable in order to grow. The fact that you are here, listening to this, thinking about this, that is already data your child is gathering. The question they are carrying around, beneath all the ordinary noise of a day, is not, "Are my parents perfect?" Children are far too wise for that. The question is, "Are my parents real? Do they see me? Are they trying?" And if your answer, imperfect and honest and still in progress, is yes, then you are already giving them something that will outlast every mistake you have ever made. You are giving them proof that it is possible to look at yourself clearly and still keep going. That is not a small thing. That is everything.